feel your fire, baby, let me dance to your love. I wanna feel your fire burn, rising from the flames. Baptize on me to burn again. Let me dance in the rhythm of your flame. If I burn, let me die to burn again. If I burn, let me die to burn again. Oh,
Woohoo!
Who's opening the show? You or me?
Aloha, everyone. This is some exciting energies today. Welcome to Get Lit on our awesome alternative media platform, CCN, Conscious Consumer Network.
That was really
TV.
good.
Thanks.
Where's your platform and all your
That's on the
multi-cameras
fly.
and your that was good. You're getting good.
And well, I think I'm really excited. There was a lot of communication.
This is Blue.
I'm Blue
And I'm
Star.
Rebecca Hahn, mindingyourbusiness.me, and Get Lit is our platform.
Yeah, and I website dearwoman.com. Well, I think I just want to speak to the energies. I just feel like there's we are pulsing. There's a phenomenal wave. And I just spent the last couple of days doing a lot of social networking, mostly via Facebook. And I want to thank all of you who may be listening now. Thank you for all your responses and your comments and interacting in the conversations. Brilliant, brilliant. And speaking of our show now, if any of you are inspired to join the conversation at any given moment, you can call in. That number will be, you'll see it on the screen. And you have questions or you're just inspired, just, jump in with us. You have more for
Pledges.
Intro? Okay. All right. So for those of you, some of you have seen the promotion that we're doing.
CCN and all of its people are doing.
Yes, the entire platform.
Tribe.
We are doing a request right now. We need your support. If you are enjoying these programs and you recognize that we're really bringing some authentic news, authentic conversations to you, right now we need pledges. And you can go to ethymarket.com and it would help us tremendously. I want to thank you.
There's also links on CCN's landing page to
Yes,
get there.
yes, on the landing page. And if you go to my Facebook and Get Lit, you will find all kinds of links. There's even a direct link to the pledgers page.
So here's the deal. CCN has gotten past capacity for what they can actually produce with all of the broadcasters they have, and they need to bump up their technology. And part of bumping up their technology is not just an internal thing. It's actually a benefit to you because you'll be able to get HD. You'll be able to download and archive your own broadcast that you want to keep, because I know there's so much information out there that we want to store. And additionally, there's a couple other privileges that you know of.
Okay, well, actually, one of the things that happens is right now, I believe there's 3 or 4 programs that are in 3 or 4 different languages, and
getting access to all of it.
Getting this support will help CCN to have yet a second stream that will be devoted
to international.
Well, actually, it is international, but to
other language speakers.
Yes, yes. So there's an abundance of information. Please, please, please. I just put out a whole promo. You've probably seen it. I had my crazy do. And as of today, I got 7 pledgers, and I know. And my goal is to at least get 10 by the end of today, but we need as many as we can get.
So I know that all of you really, the ones that come on and watch, we take a passive stance a lot of times with things like this. And we're doing a pledge drive is basically what it is. And in order to keep things running, I think you need to look at it as kind of a relationship to public television or public radio. But CCN is like public television on steroids. You know, it's all the stuff that even public television can't give us, that kind of information that's even not allowed to be on public television or public radio platforms. So if we don't pledge and do a pledge drive to keep this going, the funding doesn't come from advertising. The funding doesn't come from big corporation. The funding doesn't come from
The government.
you know, ad sales for ABC or NBC or Fox News. So we are a pledge-driven network, just like any other public format. And unless we take an active role in continuing to make this happen, it won't happen. So I think the pledge drive is a donation of $11.22.
I know in USA money it comes out to 1122
a month.
a month, and the PR is 2 frappuccinos a month.
Right. So what's the big deal? Don't get a frappuccino, get a coffee twice a month, and you'll be
And
fine.
think of us.
But if you want to keep our format of public television on steroids,
Yeah, right.
then we need to continue to actively involve ourselves in keeping the platform open. So really consider that. You can go to either one of our pages, pledge with either one of us. You could go straight to CCN on their landing page, get to Effie, and then pledge through them. The point is who cares where you pledge through? Just do it. So
That would be so awesome. Like if we could get like a handful of pledges before we end the show.
but I know that we tend to pull back from that stuff when we hear pledge drive. We're like, it'll still be there. Everybody else will do it. But this is even more
Yeah.
precarious in the sense that it's this really small tribe of viewers and broadcasters giving news that we don't have an option to go public on public television or public radio. And yet we're giving you content that's even above and beyond that. So a pledge drive is completely appropriate. And for, you know, we get actively involved in watching the broadcasts and maintaining our lives in a way where we have sovereignty and autonomy and we practice our own sense of spirituality, and then we aren't going to donate. I think that's crazy. So reset your mind, have a mind shift around what that means and how karmically, if you donate, it's really it's going to quantumly leap you because you're saying yes to this portal that gives you this kind of information as opposed to waiting for someone else to do it. Because every other part of your life, you're actively involved in the paradigm shift. So money is energy, and you will be telling the universe energetically that you want to keep this flow going for the betterment of all in the future. So go for it. Give us a steroid shot. Yeah.
Well, you know, that kind of impulses me to share how I even got here. Okay.
Got here.
Got here on a platform, wanted to share.
You know, you have to be more specific because God only knows.
God.
Goddess only knows.
We got lit.
We got lit.
Several years ago, when I was, before I left Eureka Springs, Arkansas, I had tuned into a couple of radio shows.
I remember that.
And at the time it was The One People, it was Collective Imagination, and The Transitioning. And several of those members are now represented on CCN. There was Lisa Harrison, Brian Kelly. Dee was a caller at the time. She didn't have a show, but she was very prominent. And there were several other amazing hosts. And I listened, and I got so inspired by the consciousness and the information that was being shared that when they went on tour and then they ended up landing in Morocco and decided that's where they were going to ground for a while, I was so inspired by the consciousness. There was nowhere else in my world that I was getting this bigger global picture.
She called me totally geeked out. Oh my gosh, Rebecca, you won't believe what I've discovered. And I called in for my first time.
So anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up in Morocco. And I think what I'm wanting to share is that if there's any of you that have the experience of, you know, there's something bigger than yourself. You know, there's something bigger than even what's happening in your community. That was the energetic pulse I had. That was just going, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. Now, I had definitely been on a spiritual journey all my life, and I was looking, and still do. I know the real more is in here, but I wanted to connect to the reality that I'm in right now. And having the opportunity to go to the internet and listen to shows the likes of CCN now is where I feel that question, that longing to know the greater picture is being answered. Uh, and I feel very empowered by it. So when we do our show, Get Lit, um, we're taking these events that are happening all over the planet that we know aren't coming through mainstream media, and they're not coming through our little communities. And so we bring these topics to you in hopes that you get as hungry as we do in wanting to know what's really going on the planet. And as much as, yes, we have a lot of devastation happening, we also have an amazing expansion of our energetic being is happening simultaneously. So I did want to share that. And that's how I got here too, because once I started to make my connection and started to get enough information, I felt it important for my own expression to be here on Get Lit and share with you what's coming through me. Because in the end, we're not doing this alone, and we don't want to. I hit that place in my spiritual journey where eventually it's you can only do so much me, okay? But ultimately we come back out to you, we,
Well,
we.
part of the evolutionary spike we're experiencing has moved us out of the Aquarian age, which is about the sage sitting on the mountaintop, learning
Mhm.
how to be in solitude. And the challenge we're experiencing now with this quantum leap in evolution is it is now the time of building community and building bridges. And so
Mhm.
we're coming up against a lot of our ideology, our triggers. We're coming up against people. So, having that time a decade ago where we were in solitude and meditation and prayer now has become, you see communities forming in ways, even the popularized yoga is happening in classes and communities now
Right,
as opposed to solo.
right.
So I think our challenge is our wiring is for that of spiritual solitude, but evolution has shifted us, forced us to come out of these suits.
Mhm.
Our cellular makeup, which we spoke to in 3 broadcasts ago, is no longer fitting in the suit. And so in order to match evolution and grow towards the leap, we have to expand towards one another
Mhm.
and converge and make those quantum connections. And so,
Right.
CCN is a great example of that, because at one point before CCN started broadcasting, as Blue spoke to, we had the Brian Kellys and the Dees and, the Sasha Stones all on their own platforms. And you had to dig deep to find them with some segment on YouTube or their own little network or something. And it was really fragmented. And then,
Right.
the producers had this brilliant idea to start a platform where everybody could converge together. And the energy that's been created and the cohesion, whether you're talking about spirituality or wellness or anti-politics or sovereignty, there's some through lines to all of it. And universally, energetically, that's being felt. So I'm not sure if people, I mean, maybe people understand, but I still want to say it, that this whole CCN thing is one of the biggest things that's happened universally and
Mhm.
energetically. And I think
Mhm.
if we look beyond, if we look under the covers of what's actually just apparent, it's one of the largest energetic culminations
Mhm.
that we've had in ages. So again, back
Yeah.
to the pledge, but this idea that we've got all of these think tanks, evolutionaries, whatever your platform is, coming together under one roof creates a buzz and a hum
Mhm.
that cannot be gotten to if we were all on separate platforms.
Well, I think what's starting to be identifiable through CCN is first we have our hosts who are hosting these programs, but the guests
Mm-hmm.
that each of the hosts are bringing in we're bringing in an array of such brilliance, on every kind of topic and aspect of the planet that you can imagine. And the news reporting, we are getting stories that are grassroots. Everyone hears about the brave journalists and reporters that have gone out to the front line because they really want to find out what's going on at the borders. Are we really getting the truth? Are those is that American military equipment that they moved into yet another country that we didn't even know we had relations with? I mean, on and on and on. And these reporters are, they're putting their lives on the line. And as we know, some of them don't make it.
Well, even the ones that are putting their lives on the line for the comfort of their own home on a Skype session, like the people on here, they're reporting information that they shouldn't be reporting.
Right. And that's the whole thing with disclosure. I mean, we used to go boo-hoo to disclosing, but now it's becoming a major theme. And even some of the reporters that are coming through here have contacts of people they can't name. They have to remain anonymous. So we see that more and more people are coming out and sharing with us information that's been withheld for a long time. And there was something I was just inspired to speak to. Oh, I know. Along these lines, because we're getting so much information, especially now if you have tuned into Lily Earthling, and she has really shared information with us about being able to identify the astral realms with the premise and understanding that the astral realms are also being manipulated and programmed. And for some of us, that might be hard to grasp, and that's okay. Just accept where you are and take whatever digestible bites that you can. So with that premise, Lily has nurtures and cultivates her inner knowing, spending much time with Sophia Gaia. She listens to the earth. And her understanding and her suggestion during these times is stay really close to the mother, really be grounded, take time to walk outside, walk barefoot, anything that nurtures your closeness to the earth. And the reason I bring this up is everything is up for examination, and so is all the spiritual and religious information that we've had for eons. And I find, even in my own practice, that if it isn't this article over here, it's that one over there that says, now you can't, don't put your energy in Archangel Michael. There is no Saint Germain. Forget about Yeshua. He's been created by the Cabal. Sacred geometry has gone downhill now because the whole matrix.
I still believe in sacred geometry.
Yeah. Well,
I still love it.
Well, the thing is all of it's good. What I'm addressing is I think it's created some confusion
and overwhelm.
And so when I was sitting in meditation and I realized, oh, wow, I have to really address this image and that image, whatever's coming through. I wanted to offer this as some comfort. If nothing else, there's 3 safe places, I believe, that one can put their object of meditation. Your breath, because this is for real. This is a living person. Your breath, your heart, and the earth. And those are 3 organic gifts.
So go stand outside barefoot and breathe into your heart.
There you go. And so if you're having any moments of, oh my gosh, is it all right to do this, all right to do that? Of course, in the end, you can only trust your inner self. Okay. Um, you have to trust, what's moving through you and what works. At the same time, um, we're all deepening our knowledge base. We're deepening our spiritual understandings. So I think find that way that you can center while the cards are being thrown up in the air and they haven't fallen yet.
You still with us?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's like you're
I was
done?
just taking a moment. Well, okay. So I dropped for a moment in a good way. One of the things that I just put it up this morning, actually, and it's one of my favorite expressions right now in talking about meditation. And imagine this. Here's the visual. And the phrase is source uninterrupted. And that uninterrupted is UN-IN-TERRE, Terra, as in the earth, hyphen rupted. So source uninterrupted. This came to me as I was doing my own personal research about what's happening on the planet and recognizing how many things we have experienced interference with and deliberate interference.
Well, it was like last week when I jokingly threatened CERN and then almost passed out.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, dude, whoa, wait a minute.
Right. And and I don't even know if, CERN is energetic. They're playing with magnets. So we have a lot of programming and mind control. The devices are now.
And CERN is relatively new. I mean, you're speaking also of ancient interruptions that
Well,
have been manipulated into us.
Well, that's where I want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that this is the visualization that I've had recently, is that I actually started with my brain, because our brain is all kinds of electrical impulses and circuitry is stimulated through the brain. We have heard, our scientists now, okay, it's fact, that the quantum field is gracing through us at every given moment. So I started to use just my brain, which is where it comes in. And you know how the two hemispheres split. And I thought, I started to just open up my brain. Okay. And in the meantime, I opened up my whole body so that all I saw through the center was kind of like the cosmos, just stars and planets. And I started to imagine source, which is all the energy around us, source, coming through uninterrupted, and then going right into Gaia and grounding. And I've been using this as an inner, kind of like an inner mantra, source uninterrupted, which is alongside the kinds of conversations we've had about what we consent to, what we don't consent to. I do not consent to interference. I do not consent to programming. I do not consent to intrusions, implants, and the list goes on. But source interrupted was a real powerful, uninterrupted, sorry. Source uninterrupted is a very empowering visualization. And so if you haven't seen it already, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see that image, that graphic I did, and it's the planet and brilliant, brilliant light coming off the planet and over the top, source uninterrupted. So that's where I wanted to go with that.
So tell people what the summary of that is, or what the point of you wanting to say that was.
Well, I wanted to share a visual that I feel is powerful.
To do what? Like
oh,
what would you get out of that?
well, I feel like in these times, okay, like we have a lot of information and we're very vulnerable to just putting a lot into this mental apparatus. And I call it a mental apparatus because
Well, it's our hardware.
yeah, and it's holding a lot of programming and a
Mhm.
lot of beliefs and on and on and on. And so the reason I'm sharing that is I think that right now we can get a lot of facts on the table about what's happening on the planet.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately everyone comes to the same place. It's like, yeah, but what do we do about it? What do we
Exactly.
do about it?
What
And
will we gain from meditating on Source Uninterrupted?
exactly, because we've already said, look, you can't just go and sit on the Himalayas. I mean, we need, it's obvious that we need some action.
Mhm.
So where's the bridge? You know, where is the bridge of how we're personally sustaining our balance? How are we personally, where's our faith that gives us the strength and the hope and the courage to
I mean, well, what is
continue?
the hope that you have for people to gain by doing that? I mean, it was important enough for you to guide them through what that process is and that meditation. So
Oh,
what's your
okay.
hope?
Well, what keeps me going in the way the world is right now is my inner strength. And when I feel I'm losing my balance,
Okay.
I go into my tool bag. So source, uninterrupted, that visualization, that's part of my tool bag I'm sharing. Okay, that's part of my
So you're
spiritual
saying
strengthening.
that one of the goals you like to achieve by doing that is to feel more balanced. That's one. That's what I've heard.
Well, I really dedicate cultivating what I believe is our origins in our inner technology.
So then by doing this meditation, you're also strengthening your accessibility of inner technology. So you're feeling more balanced. You're getting to
Hmm.
access your ancient inner
Hmm.
technology. What else?
Hmm. Well, that's it. It's an access point.
Okay.
It's, you know,
So it creates an opening and an access point, and we
mhm.
have to feel balanced to be able to do that. And we also have to be able to identify our ancient wisdom when it comes up so that we can use it. So you're saying it's creating an opening for us to access that stuff.
Well, yeah, because I think what's happening right now is that we come to a mental standstill in problem solving. And I think the whole crux of the planetary energy and the changes that are happening is that we're being shown all the solutions are not out there. And so I hold this understanding for myself is that, think about this. If the origins of our spiritual divine being is already inside us, right? If we go on the premise, we already know that we are spiritual divine beings. And we already know in a lot of different ways that we have the strength and the power much greater than we're expressing just now. Then this is my premise that, and even if you go towards the understanding of like Lily shares, internal creation happens within us. And as a result of internal creation, external creation emerges. We're not saying external creation emerges because we now wrapped it in our mental framework and we manipulated the external. It's like the simple understanding that when you need something in your moment, in your life, and you put out to the greater creator, help me with this, I need a solution. And then we relax and we trust and we allow the creative solution to reveal itself. Inevitably, every time, the creative solution reveals itself. It shows us. And when we practice that enough, we start to deepen our faith and our trust. And so if we are nurturing, we are the origins, remembering how brilliant and how powerful and how divine we are. then I think when we look at any situation around us, even if it's a scientific problem equation, that when we come back to our inner source and we ask for a creative solution, it too will reveal itself. And so where that leads me is all these brilliant ideas out here, all right? The alternative energy devices, or, these brilliant ideas. As far as I'm concerned, they came after the fact. So we had to have internally experienced the creation for them to reveal themselves, all right? And so then, okay, they reveal themselves. But I think what happens is then it's out here and we think we start applying this again. And we get separated from where the real solution came from. And we start working, massaging the brain and trying to develop the project. And I think that is where we are on the planet right now with a lot of our alternative energy devices. We had that brilliant moment. It's like, you've probably heard this expression, a writer will have one brilliant sentence and then write a whole book around that sentence, when in fact, if they had just written that sentence and waited, the next brilliant sentence, brilliant. So my feeling is that we're at a place where we're caught trying to manipulate this out here, rather than if we take another breath, and we go back to origins, okay, that our creative solutions are ultimately coming from here.
When I was trying it on when you were talking about just this whole thing, just getting, and like the cosmos and the stars and the galaxies all like lining me up with the universe and the earth. And it was really lovely. I liked it. It was really fun. And it did feel expansive. It's like, because we get so contracted in our daily lives and we relate to time in such a fragmented way that, that's what I really love Lily Earthling stuff about, just ground yourself with the earth time and start recognizing that. But I think that really simple 1 minute meditation, even, it was just like, that felt so good. So that was really fun. And I have a lot of visualizations that I use, but I think I'm also going to put that in
nice.
in the file cabinet, because that's a really good one.
Well, this came up, didn't we talk about this last week about the cross-cultural bridging and pacing? All right. And that's what
how different cultures relate to time and how that could manifest in problem solving and meetings and things like that.
Right. And it comes back to pacing. And I think even though we have brilliant ideas right now, and we could probably identify, what we call alternative thinkers, alternative beings, right? I think we're still caught up in the fast track.
Oh, completely.
And I think that fast track is still starving us from the genuine creative solutions.
Well, there's no mistake that most Western first worlders have adrenals that are blown up and thyroid issues, because we are so trying to keep this pace of the manic technology vibration, and we're not dropping into the earth. And it's really, I mean, I can take myself for an example. Over the past week in particular, I've been trying to finish up some exams for a licensure I'm doing. And I have not, I realized last night at 6:00 when I finished and sent them off that I had not actually been outside except to take my daughter to school in 3 or 4 days. And, there are those times of needing that kind of focus, but if we don't keep track of it, we're going to lose sight of the fact that a month or 2 months are going to go by, and, can I have a drink?
Yeah.
So, that's why we smoke tobacco, because it's sacred.
Well, tobacco definitely helps temper me. It helps me.
I think there's, not that I'm a proponent for smoking, but I think there's definitely certain people and body types where if you use tobacco in a really conscious way, it actually is a grounding thing.
Well, I've always believed,
that, but for her especially, not so much for me, but for her especially.
Well, I've always believed just you can partake in anything you need to, just moderation. You just got to know your balance, and it's
so that's crack cocaine is probably not good in moderation.
I don't know. The people of the psychedelics research might have something different to say about that.
But it's not a psychedelic.
No, that's true.
It's a
But,
street jug, yo.
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 It's a street jug. Well, anything that
Just say no.
takes us away from our divine capabilities, I
Well, and
think
it
is
does.
worthy of
Psychoactive drugs are different than
worthy of
street
exam.
grade crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
But we digress.
yeah, because I mean, drugs is another thing that has been promoted to distract us, and it's all about money once again. So again, you have to, examine everything. But I feel that being able to get closer and closer to the pace that allows your experience of source, those real magical moments, that then we can nurture more and more of our origins present in all our affairs right now. And I think I kind of relate this back to Atlantis. Now remember, supposedly our origins are part of Atlantis. And there was a time where, yes, these beings were brilliant, and we had amazing technology. Now, even if that technology came from other nations, okay, just stay with me for a moment. But there was an era that we were absolutely brilliant. And then what happened was there was a faction of people who started to see they could have control. All right. And then there was a faction of people that knew something's not quite right here. And Atlantis began to split. And then as a result of that, all of a sudden, we lost the access and the ability to work with our advanced technology and our divine selves. And I feel, in recognizing that we have all been that powerful spiritually, that's part of our origins. Therefore, that is still within us. It's within our consciousness. It's within however you want to define it, our DNA, our divine makeup. And that when we cultivate enough quieting, and we really know, everyone knows when you drop, and we start listening to that inner voice, everything inside us says, yeah, you're a powerful spiritual being. Yes, you have the brilliance and the intelligence. We also get the message. There's a collective, call it Akashic, whatever, but there's a collective database that exists at all times. And we have access to that. So we have access to the memory of that brilliance. Yeah. Therefore, when it comes to designing and remembering technological devices that could heal everything, it's not out there. It's in here. And so to me, on a spiritual path, it only makes sense that we would nurture and cultivate the environment that allows that memory to come through. Because we have everything. So to keep working it out there seems like a distraction. It seems like it's part of the programming as well. Some of the information that I had come across, and I tend to resonate with this. I mean, as you know, there's many stories, and there's we've picked through scriptures and Bibles and philosophies, ancient, thousands and thousands of years old, hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, and we're piecing it together. But one of the one of the storylines that I resonate with is that before the Atlantean time, that we, Earthlings, resided upon the planet Earth, Sophia Gaia. That, in fact, this planet was created for us. And in my heart, my deepest heart and soul, I really do believe we are very gentle, loving beings. And we never were created to know how to defend ourselves because we were given a home that didn't need that kind of tool. And so one of the stories, the way it goes, is other nations came to visit planet Earth. And there we were, not unlike the stories we've heard about indigenous people on this planet here and now. We were loving. Our hearts were open. We only knew to share. Our new planetary friends arrive and they want something. They want gold. They want this. They want that. And we very, very generously said, here. But alongside that, we kind of had a naivety. We were not prepared for anything the likes of being taken advantage of. And so then those nations that weren't necessarily of benevolence came upon the planet and influenced our civilization. And then the factions divided. There was the factions that were fully influenced by the non-benevolent beings. And there was the faction like ourselves in this this day and age, knowing something's not quite right. Equality is what we believe in. Everyone's equal. The earth is equal. And we had a reverence and respect for all life. Now, I really do believe if we go back to our origins, we are extremely kind-hearted. And I think that there were nations of benevolence, not of the earth, that did come to visit us and assisted us in very high-tech devices because they saw a way that we would become even greater spiritual beings on the planet. But then with the visitation of our non-benevolent beings, they got into all of that and they started to misuse it. And then I think our benevolent families from the other nations did in fact retract and start to maneuver perhaps the astral, the planets, the energetic design, the grids, whatever, to help us. All right. So now we've come to a point where we are peeling off all the layers. We're having to peel off all the distraction that was imposed upon us, all the programming that was imposed upon us. Yet right now, the consciousness of the people on this planet is rising. And the planetary energies that are coming in are assisting us in remembering. And I still think that even in our deepest love and care for each other and the planet, I think we're still pulling tools from the matrix. Because remember, the matrix not only had negative tools, it had positive tools that were convoluted and confused us. For instance, spirituality and religion doesn't have to be negative. But when the intention was to direct us towards being very good slaves, well then, of course, it became a negative influence. However, we're still working with the same mentality. We're picking from the matrix and we have this mental image of what's right. How should we maneuver through things? And I think the only telling sign that this tool is still a negative influence on us is that the pacing, there's still too much of a divide between that mental apparatus that we think is good and we're reclaiming to a certain extent and remembering who we are. Because if you think about it, when we have crisis in your family or in your immediate community, and I think a lot of people can speak to this, when we have crisis, all of a sudden, nothing's as important as that immediate moment. And everyone knows exactly what to do in crisis. And it's almost exhilarating. There's an adrenaline rush, or however you want to describe it, but the presence is so empowering. That presence is what makes people run into a horrendous fire and rescue a dog. But what is it? Presence that gives us that great strength and that courage and that knowing that I can do this. And so my concern is, and I think this has been voiced among many people, how much crisis do we have to experience on the planet to get to presence? When right now we have the power to cultivate that presence here and now. We can make the change here and now, but we are still very susceptible to the external reality making the change for us. So I still think there's a lot to be said about everyone's individual ability to remember in a divine way who they are and examine how do you experience that knowing when you are interfacing with the matrix the way it is. You got the gist of what I said? I was just kind of following it through the Atlantean times. But I can't help but to always come back to this place. And this was something, a note I had given to myself. Try this on for a moment. The other day, in my practice, and I felt like I was very dropped, and I was exploring power. And in that moment, I felt very powerful. But on the other side of it, I could feel like, almost nervous, like I was going into unknown territory. But it occurred to me, it was something I wanted to share, is that take a moment and explore in yourself, being able to own, I am powerful. And really, really, really let it drop inside your being, not just a mental thing, we've got to learn the difference. It's not an ego boost, like, macho, I'm powerful, no. I am powerful because the seed of power within each one of us is what says to the universe, I can change the world from within. And saying I am powerful and really getting it inside your being is not an easy task. Granted, you're gonna go through all the muddle of the programming out here, everything that says, you can't be powerful, and you're not good enough, and you're so righteous. I mean, we have plenty of messages. Do not take a stance of power. And one connection to that is we've been embedded even though we may not practice right now any particular dogma or religion, but we've all been subjected to, don't take any false gods before me. Well, it's kind of like high sin if you, for one moment, can experience God. And that's exactly what I believe we are to experience. Not the God that rules, not the God that administers judgment and pain. In fact, don't even define God. But think about that. I am powerful. I am God. I am God. And I know women have claimed I am goddess. Either one, whatever. But I think that would be that's a good practice. I am powerful. I am powerful enough that I know in this given moment, the resonance of my being is so big, and really believe that, so big that I am touching the hearts and souls of everyone on the planet right now, whether they're watching live, archive, or neither. That's how big we were born with that birthright, to be that big, to know without any doubt. And we know those moments. Those are the ones I think are worthy of nurturing and cultivating.
It's our birthright. It's our birthright to shine as bright as we possibly can. We are no good to anybody else if we are diminished. But we've been programmed not to live in that. It kicks up a lot of anxiety. It's, that saying around, and I'm going to totally bastardize this, but that might have been like an Indian prayer, or I don't even know about. Or maybe it was Marianne Williamson that said it's not the fear of failure or our
the
powerlessness. It's the fear of our powerfulness that
right. It's the fear
how powerful we can possibly be.
There was that famous book in the 70s, Fear of Flying, that we found. Yeah, it's not the fear of failure; it's the fear of success. And in fact, part of the psychology that was shared is that many of us fail. We're more comfortable in failure.
In mediocrity.
More comfortable in failure. But to really sit for a moment and know how powerful we are, that's when we talk about, uniting the people. And that's probably why we only need 3% of us. If there's only 3% that know we are gods, walking the land, the earth is our home. In fact, sometimes I think it only takes one of us. Knowing that's the power we have to turn everything around. And we know miracles. We know miracles. And we've seen them. And we co-create them by the vibration and the intention that we cultivate in each and every breath. So I think it was a couple of weeks ago, too, that I identified that we have the mental, I call it the mental apparatus. All right? It's energetic. Here's the mental apparatus. And I take off the mental apparatus. That apparatus, invisibly, energetically, has been programmed. It's got a transmitter and a receiver. It's energy. With just a thought and intention, poof. That's I do not consent. And that's powerful. Our intention. And so now we're spiraling back into inner technology. So what if we have major issues on the table? What if we started to hold the intention? A creative solution is going to reveal itself. All right? Okay, let's take a big one. Greatest fear, and you hear this in lots of conversations. Here we are, especially when you're really trying to figure out how are we going to save the world, how are we going to stay safe, da, da, da. All right, our biggest concern is how are we going to enforce reclaiming law? And everybody's mind goes to, but they got the military, but they got all the tanks, but they got the planes, right? And then, and eventually it's like, but, and you bury yourself. You just bury yourself. You're like, oh my God. And there lies why people feel they can't make a difference. Mm-hmm. All right. But we're feeding it. And I'm not saying we should stop being active and doing everything we can. But I sure would like to celebrate more focus and intention that if we let's put that big baby on the table, right? We don't have to know how the solution's going to unfold, but what if we just said, drop inside your powerful being, and with all your presence, you find in your heart and you hold it in your heart that a creative solution is being revealed. You don't have to think about what that is. You don't have to think that it's a big 10-mile ship coming in, going and picking it off the earth. No, you don't have to think about it. Your goddess-given power, holding it inside, a creative solution is being revealed. And then allow and watch around you how that unfolds, because we're unfolding. There's none of us that would be doing this, and if we didn't know somewhere inside us there's a way through. There's hope on this planet. Something inside us knows. The very thing that the cabal wants from us is our spark of life, our soul. The one thing they will never have is our soul. What the cabal has gotten is all this external stuff, and they're piecing it together because they're very mental, and it's all out here. And while they're all out here gathering every piece of external divine, whatever they think is there, we've already surpassed them, because this is the genuine creator. This is what they don't have. And bless their hearts that I'm sorry they don't. But I do believe they have opportunity to find comfort in this whole scenario. Somehow, some way. I even believe they can find comfort. But for right now, no one can take this from us. It's a divine covenant. It's well protected. It's well part of our divine seal. It's not accessible. You know, I had a thought about this the other day. I thought, you know how we have this thing about, oh, there's so many people asleep and da-da-da. What if the people that we think are asleep are holding a divine covenant and it's not time for it to be open yet because they have something absolutely significant in the moment of their wakefulness? That piece is not time yet. And so actually their sleepiness is keeping them safe. What if? What if we just went out of the box and imagined things like that? And genuinely, as I share this with you, the moment that came to me, I went, yeah, I can feel that. And I thought, oh, that's a really good plan.
It's pretty sweet. Reframe. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way of holding something in love and light. I like that reframe. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I buy it, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, it started here too. Mm-hmm. When I was feeling powerful, I realized, my gosh, I've got a covenant in here. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own covenant.
Well, and I do believe that people are asleep because it isn't time yet, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, it's like, you know, we talked about why Bush got reelected into office and people were so shocked. I'm like, it's because people aren't awake enough yet. We have to get to a place where energetically the masses are so, convergent that they wake up. I don't know if I necessarily believe it's that they're the divine beings and they're just waiting for the right time. I believe that, but I do believe it's still protecting people. I think that, as we've talked about, if everybody were to wake up right now, I think it's just like a titch too early. I think we would really have, people need to kind of slowly and almost unconsciously meet up with evolution.
Well, that's, we hear that popular message about our nations of benevolence. It's like they speak a lot about timing.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it. I mean, right now, I am sure we are all surrounded by at least 20 people we know right off the top of our heads that would absolutely go into shock and probably have a heart attack if some of the information that we share was disclosed on a public level. And I'm starting to feel that. I'm starting to have more sensitivity about, geez, would it be a good idea right now? I don't know. And so you can kind of sense it. And I think that we are midwives.
Mm-hmm.
The baby will be born when the baby's time for the baby to be born.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I was wondering about if we weren't maybe in our trimester right now. Okay.
Which trimester?
The third
the
phase
final trimester.
Yeah. That we're in the trimester of birthing. And, but if you look around, I mean, in our personal interactions, look at how unready it scares people. We're going to lose a lot of people because of fear. I mean, fear from the reverse now. Fear like, no way.
Mm-hmm. Consciousness like a hammer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This was reminding me another thought. Dee on Transpicuous News she's been doing this for several weeks actually, but she's basically, as she's been connecting the dots, let's see, I think it was last night she was on, and she spoke about Yemen and how it's being severely bombed. And now yet another site of antiquity was deliberately eradicated, another ancient shelter for ancient writings, scriptures, literature, books. And what Dee has pointed out, that if you follow the dots of where all the wars are happening, they're very specific to yet another museum, yet another place of our ancient text. And so in summary, what seems to be indicated is that the powers that were are trying to eradicate as much of our history as possible in fear that we're going to find out who we are. And I kind of find it amusing. And I think this is what sparked me on that whole line of thinking, is that they can take anything and everything because we already know who we are and we know our story. This was my vision a couple of weeks ago. This is how I saw it. Here we were, divine beings, and we understood the magic of life. We understood how the resonant energy fulfilled our wishes, our dreams, and our needs. Okay. And then one day we thought, well, let's try and write it down. Okay. And so a bunch of us got together, a bunch of scribes, and they got their big scrolls together, what have you, or they got their pieces of tablets. They started to, chisel away and go, let's see, I would express this divine moment as, they got the idea of documenting. Let's put it that way. Now, take for a moment right now. Everyone knows this on a spiritual path. When you have a tremendous moment of awareness and knowing, and then you go to write it, here we are again. You can't write the experience of creator. We know this, okay? So the real truth of creator is in here. Well, this is what I think happened. All those beautiful people were having inspirational moments with creator. Themselves, they were feeling powerful, and they decided, hey, let's try this. All right. And so that's what got stored and stored and stored in these libraries. Okay. So now you take the Cabal, and I'm sorry. I love every life being, but Cabal, they're a little behind the times. The Cabal is going all over the planet, gathering up these tablets and these scriptures, thinking they got it.
By taking them,
They think
the
they got
information disappeared.
right. They think they got the treasure, the map, right? And the thing is while they've been spending all this time gathering this up and playing black magic, we have advanced so much. We have all of that available to us. We don't need any of it. What we need is ourselves. And we are right here, right now. The creative solutions, we already understand magic. We just need to create the environment to allow that magic to reoccur, to reemerge. That stuff that's out there is obsolete. That's my sense. It is no longer needed. And so then this brings me to, I think it was the round table. And it was coming to the close of the show, and Dee mentioned that there's an idea of doing a monthly conferencing. And I think it was the initials TUG. Unfortunately, I don't remember all of what that represents. But basically, this was the idea. And then the show had to come to a close. Was that, well, let's stop going through all the disinformation and trying to, pick up the crumbs. Let's go right to the indigenous people and the people on this planet that have studied it, right? And have the experience of source uninterrupted, and bring those people together, and let's just start understanding, right? And then I think there was only one concern, is that, if we pick up university professors, we want to hope that, they have the truth and not the distruth. But the point was, it's like, I think that's the point on the planet. Let's get on with the other kinds of life. Like, Lisa's brought a community market forward. Okay, well, then it's kind of like going the path of least resistance. Let's stop trying to reform everything and find the things that work, like supporting your local businesses, farmers market, and on and on and on. How many different things and ways can we start to unplug, and for those that can, we do it, So anyway, I thought that was a good path to start exploring, is that because I feel like every one of us is a truth teller. And we know, like when you sit with someone, when spirit's just cleanly moving through them. And so if we use that source uninterrupted, that open channel, brilliance is here all the time. It's here all the time.
Yeah. Brilliance is a choice. We have it all in us, for sure.
Hey, if we got any listeners out there that would like to come talk, ask questions, would love you to join the discussion. Even if some of the things we're saying don't make any sense, that's fine. It'll be like Facebook. I don't get what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree.
That's putting it nicely.
Facebook moment. Yeah, because then I'm going to move on to that. That's what I wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, this is a blue show. There's not a
I
lot of room
see.
for
Where
anything.
are
Well,
you?
there's no room for anything else. I mean, you've got like nine items on your agenda, so I'm just kicking back, and when I feel like when there's a pause, I might jump in.
All right. Well, feel free to pick up anytime. All right. So to change the subject a little bit, but I'm going to try and keep the pacing. In fact, did you notice how it was like we jumped out of like with the racing horses, they jump out in the beginning. We were just like, boom. And yet, in order for me to talk about these things that I hold close to my heart, my pace has to slow down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you can't get the point across if people can't process it in their brains.
No, but I think that what a lot of leaders have done that want to preach their dogma, I guess they come out of like, what is it, Carnegie Hall with their public speaking credentials, commanding your audience, talking, or like, what do they call those speakers that keep your energy high?
Evangelists?
No, no, no. And that's their purpose is like,
Motivational speakers?
yes, motivational speakers.
I don't.
Right? I mean, there's a whole suave way of keeping the people engaged.
Well, I don't think it's disingenuous. I mean, I think people that are leaders, regardless of whether we agree with them or not, there's something enigmatic about them, and there's something naturally in their pacing and their charisma. I don't think it's a manipulation. I don't think.
No, but I think that's where we've been. I think that's some of the ways we've been misled is that we've had motivational speakers that didn't have the full truth, and they may not have even known it.
Well, of course they didn't.
Right? I mean, that's how.
You're talking about two different things. One is that the charismatic kind of put onness to attract people, and the other thing you're speaking to is charlatans.
Yeah,
or unconscious charlatans. I think whether you have the whole truth or not, whether, if you're passionate about something,
and passion,
you're going to be genuine.
Yeah, I
in
agree.
Your own ability to draw people in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people that are very calm and very slow paced that keep an energy up because they're just so focused and engaging. So
yes,
it's kind of
that pacing. I mean, it gives you a chance to be aware of breathing, be aware of your full presence. But I agree. I mean, we can be so passionate. We just, we just, go. But here was a thought on a grassroots level. Okay. Because there's lots of practical things that we're all participating in. And I think they're all important. It's just
practical, meaning like practices of self-growth.
Yeah. And also actions.
Right.
All right. Like, for instance, we're not just sitting on a mountaintop anymore and spiritually raising our vibration. We really do consider what's our relationship, what's our interaction, how do we interface with the communities at large. And, some of us are inspired in all different directions, health, education, what have you. And all of it's important. And so I have been thinking about on a grassroots level, this came up with, just understanding law and looking at the different parts of our law that that we didn't understand. All right. But mostly I went back to police officers. Okay. And the difference is it's been shown, this pointed out, an officer is someone who is employed by a corporation. A policeman is someone who genuinely cares about the people, helps the people. And a police officer follows the rules of his authorities. And they're not necessarily, they're based on corporate law, period. It's about, in the end, it's about money. And so a lot of a lot of the police activities that we're seeing today are because they're getting a paycheck, and it's not necessarily about morality any longer. However, one of the ways that we are understanding law is that we're allowing ourselves to be in the presence of who have been called law keepers. And I started exploring that at a bottom level, and I thought, wow, to this day, I mean, how many people are driving along the highway and all of a sudden you see the blue lights and you inevitably get nervous, right? And most of the time you're innocent than not. You may have in that moment stepped on the pedal because, your drink fell over or
Maybe like
something.
the cocaine in the back. Who knows?
Yeah, right. But and all that nervousness, it's like, oh gosh. And then it's like, am I going to get a good cop or a bad cop? Are they going to be heartful or not? And so I thought, well, I really want to demystify this. So I had this idea, and I thought this was something I could offer to people in their local communities. I thought maybe what I could do is I could go down to the local police department and just say right up front, hey, you guys, I just want to let you know that I have a fear about being here right now. I have a fear about police. I get really uncomfortable. And I was wondering, could I spend some time with you just kind of having like living person to living person conversation? And the idea would be to demystify the uniform.
I would call ahead.
I would call ahead.
I would call ahead. Girl, you're going to walk in, they're going to be like, this broad is nuts.
Right.
And they're going to immediately look into your background. See what kind of meds you're on. Call social services.
Oh, you're very encouraging.
I'm realistic. I'm of the earth right now. You do these things where you have this ideal notion, you skip the first 10 steps. I would call ahead, talk to the police chief and say, look, I'm doing a journal documentary or something.
Okay.
Just walk in and be like, hey, I got some beer on your uniforms. I'm really uncomfortable. And I go, why are you uncomfortable? And you talk crazy. You talking crazy.
You talking crazy.
Call ahead.
All right. So let's say we call ahead. The point is to be able to
call ahead.
Just be very real. That's all.
Yeah.
You're not going in there because you got ticketed, and you're not going in there because you want to get angry at them. You're honestly just trying to find the living being, because my understanding, like even when we go to the very high courts, all right, like take the case of like Rod Class, every one of these activists say you have got to be in your heart, you have got to be filled with compassion when you begin to approach these judiciary environments, because you're going there and wanting to share information, and hopefully those that are listening is hopefully help them to understand why.
If you don't, you're not being manipulative of what you think is true. If what you think is true.
Right.
And some people know that it's not the truth and manipulate anyway, but I think the vast majority of people are just, even at higher up levels, judges, whomever, they pick and choose sometimes, but the fundamentals of what they are practicing, they believe to be the ultimate truth.
Yeah. And they're acting under the auspices of the false authority. And so that's why, I thought, wow, doing it just at, a smaller level, at a police department. And it gives you an opportunity that, if the conversation can go in that way, it's like, it may be therapeutic at first. It may be, well, why are you scared? Well, could you even put your handcuffs on the table? Can I just like touch them, demystify handcuffs?
Seriously, you need to call ahead and bring me with you, because I know all of them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Yeah, because they come to Lily School every morning and sit outside, and
I love that.
And then, some of them have been here forever. And my mother was on she was an
Yeah, that's right.
alderman. And so, yeah, I mean, plus we're in a town that, remember, we're in a town that's really small. Like,
Yeah.
you drive by and they wave to you and you wave to them and they know your car. And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it's a little different. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so I know all of them. I mean, the police chief is up at school every morning hanging out with the kids.
No,
So-
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, then this would be a good department to start with.
Yeah. So that kilo
Then
of
go
cocaine,
over to-
yeah, the kilo of cocaine I carry on in my back in my trunk is like, I'm good. They know nothing about it. They're just like, I'm kidding. I don't have a kilo, just a couple of grams.
Okay, and then the next step would be going over to like the courthouse. Like our courthouse, I think, is in Harrison, right?
No, we have a courthouse right here.
No, yeah, but I don't think we do big cases in that courthouse.
It depends.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh. Okay, well then that would be the next step is just to be able to go into the courthouse. And
I mean, we have 2 district attorneys. We have 4 judges on platform that's tri-case. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I just thought, in the face of all the changes, and, we might start on these paths and anything can happen. Anything could shift where it no longer is even necessary. But I think taking those baby steps, it would empower us in feeling like we have some personal power, personal authority ourselves to start to explore human to human is
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get to. Yeah.
And, I mean, not that I agree with many of their platforms, but, this town for the most part right now has a lot of humanity in its police force. I
Mhm.
have to say. I mean, they're still policemen. They're still hired by government, all of that. There's still a bureaucracy, but it's pretty okay right now here. So it might be a good time to do that. I would still call ahead.
Okay.
Or
So-
let me, I'm going to be like, this woman's going to come in and want to have high tea with you. Just do it.
Okay, so Becca's got Ann with some good cops. If anybody like to come over to Eureka Springs,
And have tea with
we can
our
we
police
can
force.
we could do this together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we're also a unique community in the sense that we are really small, and there's been a lot of people that, this is a town where people have transplanted by choice many, many years ago. So
Mhm.
we're kind of unique in that way. So, I mean, even the police officers, most of them are people that have by choice transplanted to this little vagabond
Yeah.
circus to be a cop in a little
Vagabond circus.
That's what I call Eureka, a vagabond circus. So, they're, I don't think they would even last very long on our police force if they were highly homophobic or prejudiced or
Yeah.
judging of our crazy hippie vagabond circus.
Right.
Like they have to create some allowances for those things. I mean, they still have to follow the law.
Mhm.
If they still, if they see someone smoking pot in the park, they're still going to have to give them a ticket for it or,
Mhm.
but I think in general,
Yeah.
our town is unique in that way, at least right now. I mean, we've definitely had moments in history where our police force has been a little bit more staunch and unforgiving, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And when you see them riding around on their bikes every day, that create, they're not in cop cars all the
Yeah.
time. And so it creates sort of a natural bridge to the humanity of it, as opposed to always relating them to the guy that's going to bust you with his flashing lights,
Mhm. Mhm.
and our police reports in the front of the paper say stuff like,
Oh
at
gosh.
3 a.m. a dog was barking and the police come, someone complained, the police came and checked out and they gave him some food and some dog bones from their police car, like stuff like that is,
Yeah, we have
know.
2. Is it just a lovely citizen?
I
That
think
does
both
it?
of them do, but the Lovely Citizen is
All
funny.
right, Lovely
They do
Citizen's
funny
been here
ones.
forever, right? And it's our local newspaper. And they actually do. They have a whole page and they list all the police activities.
But they list
of the
them in a
week.
way that's really cute. The
Yeah.
other paper, which is, this one,
The
that's
Independent.
more, yeah. No, the Independent now doesn't funny because the Independent has what used to be the Citizen. But so
Yeah.
one is a little more conservative than the other. And
Right.
so they do them
But it's
funny
2.
like.
They'll go, we got a call 3 a.m. and somebody heard somebody was messing with their trash can and they thought they had a burglar outside that tripped over them. And the cops went out, they grabbed a couple of buddies and they show up and there's a
Cleaning up the trash.
there's a raccoon stuck in the trash can.
Yeah, that's our town.
The raccoon was taken care of and went on its merry way. And the police officer was kind enough to pick up all the trash.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens here. So
That's such
it's a
fun.
nice bridge to that gap.
No,
Our
and actually
town
you
is-
can even go to our papers. They're online. That one's the Lovely Citizen.
Lovely County Citizen and
Lovely
the
County.
Independent. Those are 2 papers.
Yeah, those are the Eureka papers. All right. And then, well, we've been talking about CCN. We definitely need some assistance, you kids. The ITNJ, you're probably seeing the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. We're in countdown, and they're another just amazing group of people doing phenomenal work. And the ITNJ is not unlike what we did with the Nuremberg trials tribunal, where and I don't know exactly how that works, but an international judiciary court is called to address war crimes. At least that's what Nuremberg did.
Well, and it's also like a sovereign United Nations. It's acting as a sovereign United Nations where people from all over the world are coming together to form a tribunal. Not just for war crimes. I don't think it's going to be just about war crimes.
No, it's about,
it's like that. Yeah.
What they're addressing is, and everyone's had this experience, is you have a perfectly good case. You go to the courts, and you present all your material, and it's blatantly obvious to you that you should have justice served, and it doesn't get served, and it makes no sense, and it's at the whims of the lawyers and the judges. And so ITNJ is really addressing the injustice and the corruption in our court system. Mm-hmm. And even if you go to their site, you have an opportunity to actually present any cases that you have that you knew justice wasn't administered for all the wrong reasons. You have an opportunity to submit your case. And I don't know exactly how the whole platform unfolds, but they will take you into consideration. And I think they have like over 1,000 legal experts doing all kinds of research. And they're the ones that are, there's a treaty that you can sign that would assist in the support. And they've got some major people that are going to be sitting, already are part of this. Sacha Stone, if you go to CCN and go to Sacha Stone's site, the last few forums that he did, video forums, are amazingly informative, along with Rebecca Cope and Dr. Chrissy. And then this is a group that is really doing the research and unifying it so that all of us will be represented. So please check that out. And I know that their launch, and I believe the way they're going to do it, they're calling it e-governance. Governance. Right. And I guess it's some kind of software that's going to allow, and I believe you have to pledge to be able to.
You have to pledge to get it.
No, you have to pledge to
their site.
To have access to watching the ruling or how they go about it online, which I think is going to be really fascinating. Yeah. And they also have a magazine. The first issue is still free. It's called The Sovereign Voice. And I believe it's at sovereignvoice.org. Amazing. Just that magazine alone has amazing articles and information in it. It's just brilliant. And
I mean, some of the most brilliant minds who've gone under the covers to look at what's underneath there are the ones handling this stuff. It's not, I mean, these are like the most brilliant people that have woken up. It's not just people with theory expounding. Either, you know,
these are people that are really,
in the system,
they're going through the Constitution. Yeah, they know the law. But what's beautiful is not only do they know our side of the Constitution, right, and the amendments and all that, they understand corporate law, which my understanding is it's never taught in schools. They understand corporate law. And then they also, I forget whose show, it might have been the Round Table, where they spoke of something called quantum, I think it's quantum law. And that's yet another language that's used not in the back rooms of the courthouse. So we have people who really understand the language, and they're going through it so finely. I mean, it just amazes me, and how they can pick apart the amendment, and they know the exact code and the rule and the law and da 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 da, and who was involved when that amendment didn't get passed. So what I'm finding is through ITNJ, and I've noticed this along the way, understanding law and breaking it down for, the likes of us to understand it, it's getting easier and easier to understand. They're breaking it down, they're simplifying it, and there's a whole group of people that are available to answer your questions or point you in the direction. Just a wealth of archives and legal information there. So that has a beautiful momentum going right now, and it does need our support. If nothing else, sign the treaty. But if you really want to witness that in action, you go and pledge at their page. I believe you have to do a minimum of $25 a month to have access, and then you get all the magazines, all the Siren Voices sent to you from that point on. So that feels very hopeful. And okay, callers wanted to share. If there are any of you that don't have a phone to call in, one of the things that I do, and you can call internationally as well, if you go to Skype, they offer a service that's $2.99 a month, and you can make Skype calls to landlines, cell phones, and Skype unlimited. You can't receive calls, but say you're in the UK right now, and well, actually, this platform's in the UK, but let's say you're in Norway, and you want to call into the show, Skype. So look into that. It's a really good, and
you just cut and paste the access number.
Yes. Once you have your Skype service, you open it up, and then you write in the number that's on the CCN window.
The international number.
Yeah, the international number. And then you'll see an ID also, and then put the ID in. Well, so is anyone out there like to talk to us?
Did you bring up what you wanted to about Dee?
I think so. When she talked about the conference in Yemen, and we're talking about Dee, who does the Conspicuous News. That was that information. And then, of course, Mel V, 1 hour after this, 2 hours after the show, is Dragonology. And
3 o'clock our time, which is after dinner your time.
Yeah, that's
Whatever
right.
that
3
is.
o'clock. So that means, yeah, it's 2 hours.
It's your dessert time.
It's dessert time. But Dragonology, really want to encourage, because I've spent watching just about every episode, and she is really breaking down the words, the roots, the derivatives, the etymology, and helping us to understand the relationship of these words and how they have been entangled in this system of programming. It's very valuable. And again, you can always access the archives. I think we're approaching something like close to 300 programs, and that's part of the pledging too. is you have access to download in high definition any of the program archives. So encourage you to check that out. But I feel like we've covered a lot and spent some time here sharing some visualization. Anything else that is stirring in you?
No, I mean, I have a lot of things I could share at some point, but it seems like this was one of those. I've got 9 points to put on the table and I'm going for it.
No, go ahead and share.
We'll do another episode at some
Take
point.
me on a journey.
I'm okay today. I mean, this is, I think, plenty for people, really.
All right.
You brought a lot of stuff up, and if we bring anything more up, I think it's just going to take us on a totally different course. So, but I think it's important stuff that I think it's all about kind of waking up and understanding what we spoke to last week about what is the external world and what is your own, and what is the environment, and, and what is emotional inside. And, we could be feeling depleted or raw, and it could just be something going on environmentally, getting discerning enough to know what's ours and what's not, knowing what the truth is and what's not, taking on tools to make that happen for yourself and continue to educate yourself along the way so that because if we don't know what we don't know, then how can we know what we want to know, So
I think too that visualization of source uninterrupted.
I love that visualization.
My physical experiences as things get amped up, planetary energies, right? If my mind tries to make sense of it, I burn out. So if you are having that experience of like, oh my gosh, things are so tense, that might be our typical response. Don't try to figure it out. I think it's more in our physical bodies now. It's like if you can use that open space where the cosmos is just flowing, right through the brain, source uninterrupted. If you can just drop into that spaciousness, it really helps because the mind can just, I just don't think our minds, the way they've been shaped at this point, they're not going to serve us because we can't conceptualize the kinds of changes that are happening on the planet right now. Never mind more disclosure. We just can't conceptualize it. And the grasping to understand things actually adds to your fatigue. It deteriorates your health. It definitely puts you to sleep. So just be aware that you're not alone. No one is alone. We are all going through these changes. And the more calm and centered we can be, I think, is our greatest contribution to each other. And when we're calm and centered, we can sit in our compassion. We can genuinely feel and care about other people. And it's not that you have to have any special way that you're going to help somebody or special volunteer program. That's not it. Even if you're sitting home, holding compassion and being calm, that resonance is touching your neighbors. It's touching your town. It's touching the world. Every moment really matters. So anyone and everyone can be doing something really special right now. Just watch your vibration. That's my greatest message from within is when you feel like you're feeling low or depleted, it's like just that intention. It's like, okay, amp it up. I want to raise my vibration. That contribution is a lot. It's a lot. Even when you go into, let's say, you're going to go to the post office and you're going to have to stand online for 30 minutes. Just already hold as you're going there. You're just going to be calm. It's going to be fine. In fact, it'll be more than fine. There'll be surprises there for you. Our intention, you can set it and then walk right into it. So yeah, whatever helps you to be relaxed, calm, then we exist. I think source is compassion. I mean, I think it's just a gentle, easy energy.
Well, and in our time frame, that's challenging because we are as first worlders. We speed up. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some great commercials about, I think it was a group of youths. They all came together to go out for dinner, and all their cell phones are piled on top of each other on the table. We've come to that place. It's now we have to be deliberate about putting our phones down. I saw an ad, and I wonder if it was on CCN. It was a really great ad. It's a young couple, and you see this girl. She's not doing the cell phone thing, right? And she's with a boyfriend, and they go out to eat, and she's there like, nobody to talk to, and he's just working his phone, right? So she's just sitting there just like, huh. And then there's a whole bunch of scenes like that. And then there's one scene, they're in bed. She's got her head in his arms, right? And it's dark. You can tell they're in bed. And all of a sudden, the cell phone light comes up and his arm is wrapped around her. And the light comes on and he starts scrolling. I think that's really happening. And so so being able to put the phones down.
And it's funny because people talk a good game like, oh, it's ridiculous and people are doing this all over the place, but no one's stopping. It's an addiction.
It is an addiction. Mm-hmm. It is an addiction. I mean, I have a definite energetic experience from sitting in front of the computer too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's getting really distinguishable. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like it's oppressive. It's like this dense fog is pushing on my chest, and I'm having to spend more time away from the computer than before. But that's a good thing. Then I go outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ground yourself.
Yeah,
they have those earthing sheets and earthing vests and things you can put on your computer to cut the.
Wonder how well those work.
They work really well, and so, in fact, I can't have them because they work so well. I can have the little ones, but I can't wear the earthing vest or use the earthing sheets or the grounding pads because they actually make me really dizzy.
Really?
But I'm super sensitive that way.
I wonder why that happens.
I think it's like too much discourse in the energy.
It's too much interacting with your energetics.
Yeah, I just need to walk away is what works for me.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I haven't tried any of that stuff out. I just know I got to walk away. Mm-hmm. Huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah. I've tried people's vests on before and used, I can have the little ones that you attach to your phone or the computer, but the ones that like you're actually, it's too much for me.
All right. But I didn't think it was going to come up on us this quickly, but the device concern is here. It's definitely here. Mm-hmm. And then who knows about all the things that would be planted in the devices. I mean, of late, I don't seem to be too concerned about all that anymore. I mean, of course, I'm not carrying a phone around, but it's kind of like Facebook. Remember the big alarm that went off? Facebook now, they're selling
everything.
More of everything. And, and it's kind of like, I don't know, you just get to a place where, I mean, do you come off of it? Yet it's a major networking place, and I just stayed in it, but it's like, it seems like communication's still happening. So, but that's a hard one. You have to really discern as you go, what you're going to pick and choose.
I find another really helpful tool for me when I've been on technology for too long is to take a salt bath. And not just regular Epsom salt, but there's a company called Premier Research Labs, PRL, that has an ancient bath salt mixture, and it's aligned with the energies of the earth, and it comes from old ancient volcanic ash, and it's really great at grounding. So even if you're only in there, if you use half the dose and stay in there for 10 minutes even, it helps really ground me.
That sounds good. Well, you know what I did? This is pretty funny. I think about Nick. Nick would just love those. I had a fan that broke, right? And so I thought I had pulled it apart, seeing if I could fix it, just a regular window fan. And so I started after I tried several times, I couldn't get it to work. Decided the motor had burned out. So I started opening up the motor. I thought, well, I'm just gonna, see if I can put parts together.
Right.
Well, when I got inside, there was I don't know what it's technically called, but it had all the copper wire around it. I think well, you got Tesla's coil, but it's not that. It has another name. Well, anyway, so I saw this bright, shiny copper. It's really thin though. And I decided if you watched, there was a movie out called Grounding, a really good YouTube video. And it was a young guy that he had terrible back pains. I think he was living in Alaska, and he flipped on something on the internet, and it said, "Go, take your shoes off and put your feet on the earth." Right? And then he decided, he went under his house that was on stilts. He was in Alaska. There was all snow, but underneath the house was bare earth. Took all his clothes off, and he laid down on the earth for 20 minutes or more. And he started, and it felt better, right? Well, it evolved, and he finally healed this pain. And then he did a simple thing. He got copper.
Which is a conduit, a really efficient conduit.
Right. Stuck it in the earth, recognized just what Tesla's talking about. The energy's here. Stuck it in the earth.
Did he bring it up through his house?
He did.
That's awesome.
Then he started going to buildings, 10-story buildings. He'd find a little place where a tree was. He'd put the wire in.
Wire it up through.
He'd bring it up
on the
to
side.
And then he'd have his whole group audience. They all had wires to their chairs and did grounding. So that had inspired me. So I took this copper thing. It took forever to unwind it because I had to go through a loop every time. And I went outside. I have it wrapped around. Oh, first I had a big piece of wire of copper. I just stuck it in the earth. And I made a little loop like a handle. And I have a rock against a tree. And then I wrap the copper around the tree, right? And so I have the tree's energy, and then the copper goes over to my little handle, and it's in the earth. I sit on the rock. I put my back against the tree, and I hold that copper, and I'll tell you what, you can feel it. You can feel it. And my wire is super thin, but it's there. It's totally there. Now, I haven't put a meter to it. It's probably like really tiny, but nonetheless, the energy is there.
Well, and they talk a lot about, I've talked to, some of my chronic digestive stuff, and I've had a lot of healers say, go out and gather some dirt or some clay from around your area and just put a pack of it on. And it does wonders,
I know.
And they have, like Premier Research Labs, the company, they're a quantum, actually, they configure all of their supplements quantumly through quantum energetics. I love them. I'll order from nowhere else, except for a couple of people here and there. But they have mud packs that you can buy. Also mud packs like for your mouth after you get dental work done. You put it in your mouth and you hold it. Then they say you must go outside and be under the sun's energy when you're done to finish the cleansing process. Wow. So yeah, check that company out. Premier Research Labs. They're awesome.
Well, years ago, I kept wanting to create what I called an earth chair. And because I'm in Arkansas, it's very hilly. And the idea was, and I did carve one out, and it works. I carved out the side of the earth.
Here? You did this here?
Yeah, I did it in the back of Entheos. And what I heard to do this. I carved it out, and I made kind of like a chiropractic chair. Not a chair. What am I looking for? It was just a really a shapely design bed. Okay. And I supported it where your lumbar would rest. But mostly what was important is that it was tucked in the earth. And actually, I did another sample of this. I started to do it out at Sanctuary, and I had a place for my arms to rest. So everything, and here the earth, we have a lot of clay. So I was able to pack it, and I would just lay. And so here's the earth all around me like a shrine. And what I heard was, spending time on the earth like that, allowing her to just really envelop you, grounded all of the microwaves, radio waves in my body. And it was amazing. And of course, it was extremely silent, right? But reducing stimulation, my body was definitely more relaxed. And you can feel it. It's kind of like when you know it's time to get off the computer. There was just such a beautiful release. And it didn't take much. It was just go carve a place in the earth and lay in it. And I guess, we do that a lot when we lay on a beach. If you really dig a hole. So simple. It's so simple.
Yeah, we're losing sight of that for sure. And going hiking and stuff is great, but we're actually talking about like being barefoot in it, skin to earth.
Yeah, skin to
somehow.
Earth. Yeah. Well, I had originally tried to bring it in here, but my wire was too thin. I wanted to tie it onto my big toe and sleep with the cable going all the way out, but I need thicker copper. So, and I probably will eventually do that.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But it's just coming back to the mother and how simple it is. Even when it's raining and you see a little pool of water, I mean, that water, I know it goes through everything else, but still it's water from the earth. I was splashing on my face or, and just like what Dr. Emoto shared with us, holding that intention, as you drink water, I am grateful for this water. I'm grateful for its upliftment, its cleansing. So powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, if you don't go Google Dr. Emoto, if you haven't looked at his stuff, he's thus passed away, but he had some great, wonderful experiments around water and energy and what we put into, just anything, the energetics we put into anything changes its molecular structure. Pretty cool.
Dr. Emoto actually came here many years ago. In Eureka Springs, there are 110 springs, and when Eureka Springs was originally established, it was known for its healing waters. We actually had a population of over 10,000 people here. Right now, we have about 2,500. And elders were the earth keepers of the springs. And as the story went, of course, the settlers came in and chased off the elders. But it has an amazing history of people traveled from all over the planet to bathe in these healing waters. So when we had Dr. Emoto come visit many years ago, he tested some of our springs, and one of them was Magnetic Springs. And my understanding is that that spring had the greatest potential of rehealing. And to this day now, I know for the past, 30 years, a lot of the community members who do healing ceremonies and rituals spend a lot of time at Magnetic Springs. We've done a lot of ceremony there. And my intention as I walk through the town is to continue to hold, these are healing waters. The healing waters are here. And I think that's because the community at large has held it that way. So there's a good reason for you to come visit us at Eureka Springs. Come enjoy the healing waters.
Some of them are dried up, but the energetics are still there.
Yeah, the energetics are there. But the ones I'm speaking of are Magnetic is fully active. It's a beautiful spring. All right.
What time are we at?
Here we go. Oh, well, we're just about there. So again, I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. And thanks for visiting. And please go visit CCN and make a pledge today. And you can find both Rebecca and I on the Facebook Get Lit page. Please don't hesitate to, if you have had the opportunity to sit with us today, don't hesitate to continue any of the conversations or any questions or even topics that you might want us to bring to the table.
Yeah, thanks for being with us today, and we will see you next week.
So much love. So much love. Mwah.
Blessings all. Have a